Beautiful. Thank you, Joe Schneider, for that. So, good morning, everybody. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to see some new faces. That's always a good thing. Um, I get together with the other ministers, the whole group of us, and we decide on these themes. And they seem such a good idea when we have them. And then every once in a while, I get to one and go, I'm not, what am I going to do with that? And this was one of those moments. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's a time when I'm stretched, when I'm stretched, because the thing about culture is that you often don't know what your culture is because you're in the thick of it. Our isms, all of our isms that separate us, they are actually in our culture, but it's hard to see them. It's why it is so difficult to raise up above the racism, the conversation on racism. I'm babysitting a dog and she's sitting under my feet. I almost just tripped on her. because the isms are so, you're in it so much, you don't even know who you are to it. And it's one of the issues about identifying some of our cultural differences. I wanted to start with something a little different. I love this country. I do. I love it with all of its faults. And I have to then ask myself, well, what do I love about it? Because I'm definitely critical. I'm critical of our military stance. I'm critical of our political stance. I'm critical about specifically about some politicians, not just one, but some politicians. So what do I love about the country? And I think for me, what I love about the country is the possibility of who we are, is the that we are still a place where someone who chooses to believe in themselves can rise up and acquire their dreams. We are still that. And while there is a lot of pain and suffering, because God knows there is, and I'm not going down that road today, we are balanced with love. We are balanced also with individuals who are very dedicated to volunteering. The United States has a reputation for having one of the largest volunteer bodies of the world. We are just volunteers, which is a beautiful thing. I couldn't be who I am if it wasn't for some of the culture, both of the country that we live in and of the science of mind, the culture of the science of mind community. And we're definitely going to go into that. So I wrote something that I thought to myself, what could I live with? Because the Pledge of Allegiance, lovely, isn't necessarily one that reflects all of who I want to be here. So I wrote something that I could live with, and that was the question. I sat and said, what could I pledge to? What could I pledge my allegiance to? This is the answer for that for me. I pledge allegiance to being my fully expressed self. I pledge to be the healthiest version of me possible. And in healthy, I mean body, mind, and spirit. I embrace my wholeness, engage in life through my wholeness, meeting others whole being to whole being. Through my eyes, I see the beauty and perfection of all life. I recognize spirit in the form of humans and all forms of life. I cultivate a consciousness and behavior of acceptance and compassion for all. I take responsibility for the creation of my life. I pledge to be a place where love resides, and I walk in this place wherever I go. As a member of this community, I commit to stand in my truth and trust the power as me. This divine relationship guides me always. As a citizen of this country, I commit to the experience I want to have, to lead by example, model the behavior of love and acceptance, and speaking truth to power. I pledge allegiance to wholeness and beauty. And I thought, oh, okay, I can live with that. I can live with that commitment. We are each, we're human. And in all the work that I do, I'm constantly saying to people, even in the middle of growth, we are each still human, which means we have our beauty and our wholeness and our perfection, and we have our challenges, and we have our reactions, and we have our some fear and doubts that get tucked away. And if you're in the teaching, you will probably find yourself constantly trying to identify that voice of limitation and undoing that voice of limitation. At least in my mind, that's the culture of a Science of Mind community. So I want to read to you that if you're here for the first time, what I'm about to read is something that we use at all of our installation, ordinations, major ceremonies. And it is, thank you, darling. And it is the principles of the Declaration of Principles by Ernest Holmes. It's a teeny long. I don't usually read it during celebration, but I really want you to get this because this is our culture, or the one that when we walked into a Science of Mind community was there before us, and that if you submit to the community, this is part of who we are. It's an important part. We believe in God, the living spirit almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. We believe in the incarnation of the spirit of all people, and that all people are incarnations of this one spirit. We believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul forever and ever expanding. We believe that the kingdom of heaven is within us, and that we experience this kingdom to the degree that we become conscious of it. We believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete emancipation from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is true to be attained by all. We believe in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. We believe in the direct revelation of truth through the intuitive and spiritual nature of each person, and that anyone may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. We believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God, and that we are surrounded by this creative mind, and that we, which receives the direct impress of our thought and acts upon it. We believe in the healing of the sick through the power of the mind. We believe in the control of conditions through the power of the mind. We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and eternal givingness to life to all. We believe in our soul, our own spirit, and our own destiny, for we understand that the life of all is God. Wow, that's a mouthful. That could be conversation, an all-day meeting, an all-day conversation to pull and unpack these things and find out what did Holmes mean. Now, I want to tell you what I just read to you is the gender neutral version. So what that tells you is that we have a culture within the Science of Mind that says we're willing to upgrade, that we're willing to upgrade and be present to, which is a very important thing, because not all religions would be that willing to say, maybe we can see this differently. Maybe we can speak about this differently. Maybe we can, change the language to suit what we know now. It is one of the most beautiful things about who we are. So in my research, the main difference between culture and tradition, because when I was preparing my time, I kept going back and forth between two, is that traditions describe a group's beliefs and behaviors that are passed down from one generation to another. Culture describes the shared characteristics of the entire group, which has been amassed through history. Okay. You remember a number of years ago, some of you, and I know specifically Mo remembers, and so does Sal, who's with us today, because I had created this thing I was calling peace salons. The purpose of a peace salon was what I would do, for those of you who don't know, I would have people invite me into their home. So Mo invited me into her home. And then it was her job to invite people. But the task was to invite people that did not necessarily all know each other, that were from different walks of life. Because the goal of a peace salon was to have the experience that we could be in conversation with people we didn't really know. And on the outset, it might have been that we didn't think we liked. So it was to find that place of, because one of the things that, I keep having these conversations with my colleagues and with practitioners and such, one of the greatest things that I believe we have to do is learn how to disagree together. You catch that? Disagree together. And that might even boggle your mind. How is that possible? Well, I'll tell you, last week when I was on and I was teaching from California, I knew, because I pay attention, one of the people from this that was listening, that was here that morning, shut off right away. She got off. Yeah, we agree without being disagreeable. Love that. She got off the call right away when I mentioned, that if you were here, I didn't say much about it, but I just wanted to acknowledge the discomfort and some of the pain of so many people right now because of Roe versus Wade. I didn't offer an opinion. I didn't talk about it. I was just acknowledging emotions. And this person left the call. And I knew right away, because I know this person, and I called them up and we had the most lovely conversation. Now, this person and I do not agree on many things. We're politically, we're different, and even our opinion about maybe where science and mind falls in certain cultural things aren't even the same. But this person is always willing to talk to me. They're always willing to answer the phone. Now, I don't know about you, but my observation of life now, I mean, my world is you. So I'm always talking to people who are willing to disagree. That kind of is our culture. But if you go just outside of that circle of influence, often you find people that are not in that conversation with you. They don't, I mean, you know what you've been told. Never talk about politics or religion at a party. Never, right? Well, why the hell not? Why don't we investigate with each other, especially when invited into a room full of family and loving people, not to convince, but just to share? Because this is one thing I know. When you get to know somebody better, it's much harder to be in conflict with them. So when we learn to have a conversation with others, yes, when we learn to have a conversation with others, I'm going to remove my spotlight because I want to see y'all. When we learn to be in that kind of conversation, we are going to expand. I expand by listening to you. I expand by asking you why you do what you do when you do it. It causes me to grow. So some of the wonderful traditions of Science of Mind, and very specifically in this community, and don't, if you're listening to me for the first time, this might not make much sense, but we do death well. You know what I'm saying? We do life celebration ceremonies really well. And I believe that is because we believe in the eternality of life. So we're not having a memorial to come to it with doom and gloom. We are celebrating that life, knowing it is eternal and forever expanding. So we have a very beautiful culture around the death and dying. And I got to tell you, when I came into this movement, I did not come in with that. I came in afraid. I came in thinking, oh my God, when I die, I'm going to be in the box forever. I mean, that sounds ridiculous. I mean, I was a full grown adult when I came into this, but I knew there was that lingering fear. But now I don't want to go now. Okay. I'm not saying that. But if I go, for me, it truly feels like I'm shedding the overcoat and just going to become part of a bigger party. I truly believe that with all of my being. So we do death well. We also do birth well. Some of our baby welcoming ceremonies are some of the most beautiful things. And I believe, again, it's because we're not indoctrinating the child into the religion. We're welcoming them into a spiritual community that wants to love them. So we have some beautiful, beautiful traditions and cultures that make us very unique. I did some research. I found some funny things. So I'm just going to tell you some amusing things that I discovered. These are all cultural traditions. I'm going to call them cultural traditions. In Spain, once a year in the town of La Tomatina, they have a major, believe it or not, tomato fight, a big, gigantic tomato fight in the town. Okay. I didn't bother giving you the history of all this stuff. I just thought it was amusing. There's a temple in India. To me, they're taking their life in their hands. There's a temple in India where the devotees go to the temple and the priests break coconuts over their head. Can anyone say concussion? Okay, but they do. This is real. There is in wait, where's the other one? There is place in Denmark. If you were unmarried at the age of 25, your family wets you down and they cover you with cinnamon. They throw powdered, ground cinnamon all over you. I know, I have no idea. In Mexico, and I guess this is where we got this, for their birthdays, boys and girls have their hands tied behind their back, and then their faces are shoved into the birthday cake while everybody shouts mordida, which means bite it, I think this is pretty hysterical. Now, two a little more serious ones. These are very, very committed people. There's another one. Hold on one second. Where did I do with that? There is a tribe in Indonesia, where it is a, hold on one second. I want to make sure I get this right for you. Well, there's a place in India where there's no written language. So all of the history of the community is handed down through the spoken word. That gives a lot of responsibility to the spoken word, right? And then there's another place in India, Kashi, where it's matrilineal, which means women reign. and where the women rule. Property is handed down to the youngest woman in the family, and the man takes on the woman's language, and the man goes to live at the woman's house. Now that is a major shift, right? Okay, and then so the other two more serious, or the ones that have serious implications, in addition to the coconut smashing, I really don't, that frightens me. But there's a place in Indonesia where when a woman is in mourning, and she's in serious mourning, she takes a thread, they take a thread and they wrap it tightly around the last joint of a finger till the finger goes numb and she loses feeling, and they cut it off. And then they burn the end of that finger so it doesn't bleed out. And that's how they acknowledge that they're in grief for a beloved loved one. Okay, this is, I know, I'm looking at some of your faces, but holy cow. Then there's another place in India that when you have a newborn, you take the newborn to the temple and you're gonna think I'm making this up. You take the newborn and you throw them off of the top of the temple to be caught, but in a cloth that's being held by Muslims and Hindus. Okay? So the point is, people, baby dogs, people around the world have cultures and practices that you and I might judge and feel horrified by. But the fact is, the more we learn and the more we study, the greater our ability to expand to, and I don't like this word very much. Maybe somebody else will give me a new word right now. And we learn to tolerate differences and then accept differences. So first we tolerate them, I believe. And then as we become more and more curious about them, we accept them. And in that acceptance, we grow. We grow because the cultures are understanding someone else's cultures. It's to understand them. I used to have this lovely housekeeper. Oh my God, I can't remember. I don't know if it was Uruguay, but she once told me that at Christmas every year, they take the boughs of pine and they take the needles off and they bring it in the house. So when they step on them, the smell of evergreen would fill the house. And I thought, oh, how incredibly unique and interesting. Okay, what else about the culture of CSL and J? I believe the culture of CSL and J is one of real love, one where we constantly talk about acceptance, one where we reach to be our most expressed self while accepting others without challenging the differences. I also believe in, if you're here for the first time again, knowing that my ex-husband is in this community, we have created a culture where the opposite of divorce is not hate, or the opposite of marriage, is not hate. It's a culture where you're just complete with that chapter of your life, but you can go on in love. And because of my soapbox about forgiveness, you're in a culture of a community that talks about, believes in, and subscribes to, and hopefully you do, in the worthy practice and investigation of forgiveness. So we have a culture, you can feel our culture. It's a little bit more difficult in here, but I do believe that some of the greatest, our claim to fame has been the acceptance and the love. And unfortunately, we don't see it as much here, but our creativity. Those of you who've been around the longest know the level of creativity that we have experienced in our communities, from dance to music to spoken word to skits to belly dancing. I mean, we've had it all. Why? Because we learn through creativity. We learn through being inspired. It's just like being out in Southern California right now. they have a culture that they believe in beauty. Now, they might not know that they believe in that, but every time I go there, the foliage, their attention to detail of beauty is just mind blowing. We don't have that here as a state, in this area, but certainly not New Jersey. You find it some places, sometimes, mostly at the level of the individual homes. But the state isn't taking time to grow wildflowers on the garden on the interstate, although they were starting to. I don't know what happened to that. So your culture should lift you. Your culture that you subscribe to should comfort you. If it's not, that's where we question it, or that's where we begin to change it. For me, I am working to change the culture in Science of Mind about forgiveness by raising the awareness of forgiveness and the necessity of it and how it transforms our lives. For me, that's how I'm adding to the cultural shift of our organizations. So for the balance of the month, you're going to hear a variety of different ways and different conversations around cultures. I invite you to participate every week to find out what it is on how, Tony sees it and Reverend Joel sees it. And I think, Neil, are you speaking again this month? Yep. So, and to see the different flavors and the different facets of culture. And let me say to you right now, let's do a culture of affirmation. How about that? Let's remember that. I'd like you to unmute yourself. And I'm going to ask you to join me today. Instead of a closing treatment, I'm going to ask you to join me today. And I know we're going to be complete. It's going to be complete chaos. It doesn't matter. Unmute and come on in so we can hear each other. Because today we're going to close out, instead of me closing out with a prayer, we're going to close out with loud affirmation. Okay. So I hope the rest of you do choose to join us. So, I am the glory of life itself.
I am all of the time. The glory of loving relationship.
I am worthy
the glory of life
just the way I am.
I am.
Stay with me. Just repeat after me.
I am.
I am loved. I am accepting. I am forgiving.
I am the
Peaceful.
I am
I am
prosperous. I am
insightful.
prosperous.
Hold on.
Aware. I am
Hold
connected.
on. Just repeat
I am in
after
a
me.
place where love resides.
Okay, do me a favor.
Michelle, you're muted, Michelle.
You muted me. Okay. So just repeat after me rather than extending it. So we all just do the affirmation that I'm offering. Okay. Right. Otherwise, this will go on forever.
Everybody needs to unmute again.
Yeah, you have to unmute again, but we just repeat after me. Okay. I am the place where love resides.
I am the place where love resides.
I see the perfection of spirit in you.
I see the perfection of spirit in you.
I am love itself.
I am love itself.
I am intelligence.
I am
Intelligence.
I am wholeness.
I am
Wholeness.
I am powerful.
I am
Powerful.
belief.
I model the possibility of transformation.
I
model the possibility of transformation.
And my beauty is your beauty.
My
beauty is your
beauty.
Your strength is my strength.
Your strength
Is my strength.
So right now, I bless this community and each and every one of us and everyone that makes it up. And I'm going to declare in front of each one of you that we are meeting in person. Hold that consciousness. We are meeting in person. I love you all. Thank you.
I'm going to mute everybody. So Ira and Julia, you're going to have to unmute yourselves.
Thank you, Reverend Michelle. Just so great. And we got to see the community just now. Just you're all so beautiful. So it's just so great.
Love what you spoke to today. It was just so important. It just very, very important. So thank you for all of that today.
We're all part of a child in space. One body, one heart, one race. We're all atoms dancing face to face, and the bond that we can't see between us keeps us in this place. While the left hand wrestles with the right, the belly goes hungry, and I shall die. If I could reach across a great divide, our tears would become nourishment and heal us from inside. And the darkness would fade if I could hasten the day. We are all part of a child in space. We're all part of a child in space. One body, one heart, one race. One body, one heart, one race. We are all atoms dancing face to face. We are all atoms dancing face to face, and the bond that we can see between us, it keeps us in this place.